delighted to be part of this topical discussion, Art and Sustainability, with artist friends Atul Bhalla, Shakuntala Kulkarni, and Walter D'Souza. Art and sustainability have a long history. Landscape can be found in old Chinese inkworks, ancient Egyptian tombs, and Roman frescoes. But it was not until the Renaissance in the 15th and 16th century that nature acquired autonomy in painting, especially in European art. Over the years, we've seen artworks depict the idea of the protection of natural landscapes, the growth of cities, the consequences of industrialization, the use of resources, and the reuse of waste. The art community has been playing an increasingly significant role in raising awareness on important issues such as climate change and encouraging sustainable practices in the arts. Several artists are using their practice to draw attention to these issues, either by theme or the artwork medium, to create awareness. The idea is also to reduce their own environmental footprint by not only changing how their own work is being made, but to inspire social and cultural change as well. Today, I'd like to discuss the power of art to overcome our disconnection from the natural world and shift perspectives to help us imagine alternative futures. Let me start with Atul Bhalla, an artist who has explored the physical, historical, and political significance of water in the urban environment of New Delhi through artworks that incorporates sculpture, painting, installation, video, photography, and performance. Atul, your work has always sent a powerful message about the environment, and your various mediums have brought about conversations around political and social injustices to the environment, specifically water. I would love for you to expand on this, starting with how you became so committed to this subject.
What I found common between all of us is histories of material. The way Shakuntala uses the cloth, and we call it in Punjabi, we call it chagga. When the newborn baby is born, you give an old piece of cloth which has been handed down in the family to that, and then using of that and the making of these histories between the grandmother and this, and then the material. What does the material say? Also, Walter's very interesting use of used wood and ply, which has been kind of been elsewhere, if I correctly understood that, and all the material that you found around and you keep collecting. So obviously there are histories to material which I like and which is part of sustainability. And in my own work also, I have this I did this work which I kindly fondly remember in Shanghai, is Listener of West Heavens. I mean, it's me at different locations in Shanghai listening to water as a repository of history, meaning, and myth. So it's about listening to the material and listening to the histories of material and the myths associated with the material. So it is very important for to live or to be sustainable, to actually connect with how we have actually lived down the centuries. And that I found very interesting is that art is one space where we usually, I think all artists do, bring up these histories continuously and point towards them directly and indirectly or conceptually of what materials mean to us in themselves. What does wood mean to Walter? When he's carving it, what does it mean that if there's a nail going there, or it's a staple in that plywood or something, what would have been that plywood's history? What piece of wood, if it's coming from crates, what would have they transported, right? Even who lived in those clothes that Shakuntala deals with, or for those histories to come up. And even my own thing of water is like water having memory, which I looked at, that you always step into the same river is actually the same concept. That if you stepping into the same river, you're stepping into culturally the same water and culturally the same Yamuna. Right. And also there have been researches which are going on in Japan and France and Germany, where they're looking at water has memory. For certain nanoseconds, it remembers the container it has been in. And one can look up YouTube videos for these scientists. So it's a question of the memories which are resurrected continuously through sustainability. I mean, by being sustainable and also looking at histories. So the sustainability is connecting to also the histories that we kind of build while kind of reusing materials. So I just wanted to bring that in.
8 years in Baroda, walking around Baroda, you found a lot of material lying around. Material which was considered as scrap, useless. And it was that after finishing art school, you didn't have anything in your pocket and you needed to work. And so one picked up whatever material was available to produce work. And here the early works of mine were, the simplest work to do was woodcuts. Wood got from construction sites that were taken to I won't say a sawmill, but a carpentry workshop, and you begged and pleaded for the guy to cut pieces of blocks from that waste wood. And that's where you started doing woodcuts. You got all this little bits, okay? 6 inches by 4 inches, and which were door frame ends. You use that for your initial woodcuts to keep you going. That's what kept me going for quite some time. How far did it influence them? I guess only time will tell it now. But what one saw was, if you have to push, a good way to push is to open up.
I really liked with three of us is the history part, how we come from. And another thing is, it is organic. It was not so planned. Like Atul, you got off that train and you suddenly thought that you want to jump into that water, and something triggered off, and you went somewhere else. Like it took you somewhere else. And the Walter also walking through all these places and picking up things, and something else happened. So, and my grandmother's those little materials she stitched and brought them together evoked memories and so many things. So it is not so pre-planned. It's so organic. That's common with all three of us, I feel. Like I had no plans that I will do all this histories and culture. It just was, the material was so close to me. I mean, I had no idea why exactly I was doing it, but I just loved it. So I did it. And then as I was doing, it grew. So in that sense, I'm saying, Walter, your way of working also, and even Atul's. I've seen Atul, your work long ago when you started. I came to that gallery where there was water by mistake. And I was walking through that water, and it worked so well, as if you had planned it. But it was, I mean, since then I've been seeing your work, so I know. Yeah. It's amazing. And one more thing is, when I was in Banaras and I saw Ganga so dirty, I wouldn't touch that water. I asked for bottled water. So when you mentioned it, and I much later I said, I talk of consumerism, I talk of all this, not to use such things, and then I opt for things because of sheer insecurity or well-being problem that I have. Like, see how we look at water, different waters. And it was, when you said that you were drinking that and the river was right there. What a contradiction, right? We all live through contradictions.
History to the future. You all have talked about how your work comments on sustainability, the materials you're using, but do you think about it consciously, taking it a few steps further? The printmaking or photography studio you're using, the space where you're exhibiting, your carbon footprint while you fly across the world for exhibitions. How much is too much to think about this issue?
The thing is that one has to balance. So of course, we have to be very conscious of the carbon footprint that we are going to leave, and what we leave, what kind of legacy we leave our grandchildren and great grandchildren, right? And what kind of world that we live in. And I mean, I was very influenced by Amitabh Ghosh's book, The Great Derangement, which actually deals with the calamity which is just about to hit us. Every time, and he has actually talked about Mumbai quite a lot, and all the colonial cities, especially Mumbai, because and he's predicted, and last time there was the cyclone in Arabian Sea, which went up to Surat. And in his book, he has predicted that there will be more cyclones in the Arabian Sea than in the Bay of Bengal, or they might be of equal intensity. So all the cities, including Boston, New York, all colonial cities which are actually on the shores, are in the danger of kind of losing the ground beneath their feet, literally. And Bombay is one of them. And what we have done, so the future, I mean, the way we consume, like when I visit the Yamuna and I look at it, that we have a barrage at Wazirabad where we actually literally take out all water from the river, and all of it goes to drinking purposes or pump to houses. And I also did a work called Real Water, in which I walked the embankment, which came up after 1983 or 1978. It took 5 years to come up after the great 1978 flood in Delhi, where the flood waters actually reached Connaught Place. And so that water is contained now so that Delhi doesn't flood. But the flooding of Yamuna is important for Delhi to survive, because of the flooding of the Yamuna, the floodplains, this is where you have the pump houses. And I exhibited this work at Project 88 solo of mine, which is called Real Water. It's a set of 48 prints of just these pump houses actually lining the embankment, and this is what 40% of Delhi's water comes from. So what are we, or how are we going to live if, what is the carbon footprint of pumping out water, obviously using electricity and petrol and fossil fuels, and then how much water do we consume as a person? I continuously, when I talk on my sometimes, especially when I talk to the Western audiences, I talk of also a bucket bath, and they don't understand what a bucket bath is, because while growing up, you used to get one bucket of water this is all you get for the day to have a shower. And my sister used to get 2 buckets because she had very long hair. So when she wanted to wash her hair, she used to get 2 buckets, right? So the thing is that, how conscious are we, and what are we going to do with it? Are we conscious of the detergents that we use? Are we conscious of the bottled water that we use? Are we conscious of the, how much do we drive to get to some place? Or what kind of vehicles do we use? And also all of this is not only dependent on us. It is also dependent on what the government makes available to us and forces us to have. Even though there are subsidies to getting electric vehicles, but obviously how far can you go with electric vehicle? Like, so those questions are there. And then the question of carbon footprint while traveling around the world, right? I mean, the corona lockdown has actually taught us to actually slow down, and the slowing down isn't too bad, to be very honest, right? So so how do we place ourselves in what our priorities are from now on? Has the lockdown actually taught us to kind of reimagine the world that we want to live in? Are there policies in place which will help us to live that way? So these are the things that, these are the thoughts that usually come to me, is that where are we? How can one make, or what kind of work does one make, which kind of can transcend, and can we not have them transported, so many thousands of miles across countries and continents? But then you want to look, I want to look at original work of art. I've been locked down, I went through corona, I was ill, and I was hospitalized. But then the need to engage with a real work of art is even more so now.
But I must confess here, I bought wood in 1984 last. I bought 2 logs of wood from which I have been working with that wood ever since. The rest of the wood which I use for my woodcuts is what I have picked up from construction sites and good wood. I have picked up Burma teak, I have picked up Valsadi teak, I have picked up Aldu, I have picked up Sevan, I have picked up all this wood thrown as waste on construction sites. Okay. Now, I've also told all my architect friends, I said, hey, when you just think when you are designing. And if you have waste on your site, pick it up. If it's wood, pick it up. Give me a call and I'll go and pick it up. If it's in the state of Ahmedabad. So, and I balance myself off over here because everybody keeps asking me, don't you feel bad about doing woodcuts now? And that too, you work with wood and not plywood. Okay, so I work with wood. I have not bought ply yet, and it's not important that I need sheets of ply to do my woodcuts. No, I mean a 4-inch by 6-inch block is good for me. As long as I can generate my work out, my image out there onto the block of wood, and the image comes through on a print. Yeah, there is no waste. Simple. So even when I work with metal as, like for example, doing a gate, yeah, a steel gate, and you get waste out of that. That waste is taken and reworked out in another work as a sculpture piece. I try my best to create as much storage area for myself, because at the end of the day, I am not churning out a lot of stuff. No, I do little work, and I make sure the waste that is produced is reworked on. I thank Kiran Nadar Museum of Art for presenting this platform for discussing sustainability and what each one of us got to bring up front. An old word, I guess I think I can speak for all 3 of us. We all come from a period of time when sustainability was not a thing to talk about, which we just did it. It was part of us. And I guess that's what we'll be sharing in this episode.
I want to thank KNMA for giving me this opportunity to discuss art and sustainability with my friends Walter and Atul and Roshni, and that's such a pleasure to do that together. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art and for providing this platform on art and sustainability, and to discuss it with friends from quite a long time ago, and to engage with them and to be moderated by Roshni. Thank you.